Alright everyone, so today we're going to talk about some basic concepts when crafting sigils. Now, there's some little things that I've learned over time when crafting my own sigils that will be useful to you as well. So, what kind of sigil do you want to create? I've already displayed in other videos exactly how to create a sigil from using a sentence and an affirmation and then narrowing it down to, capital letters. Just, getting rid of the vowels, the repeats, writing everything in caps, and then playing with those letters to create a sigil based on what feels right to you. But there's some basic concepts in Sigil Craft that don't just have to do with that one process. So one of the concepts is, do you want your sigil to be flowing? Do you want it to be, you could say circular, spherical, but do you want it to do you want the energy to flow, or do you want it to be embossed into your mind? Not only into your mind, but into reality. So if you create a sigil that's very flowing, let's say I create a sigil that has a lot of runes like lagos. And once again, you don't have to use the process I was talking about earlier as far as using an affirmation. But you can combine these two things as far as these tactics plus using an affirmation, but you don't have to. At any rate, if I was going to create one using lagos, I'm bending lagos a little bit. Lagos is the Elder Futhark rune of flow. So if I wanted the sigil to be very flowing, I would usually, the rune is written like this, more or less like a half of an arrow, a straight lines, but you can bend it a little bit. You can bend letters, you can bend symbols to make them more flowing, to hint more at the nature that you're trying to encapsulate. And whatever you have in the center, let's say you have a star at the center. Now, when you have a star, it's not drawn very well, but when you have a star, it's representing either ascent into infinity and rising, ascending, or it could be reversed. You can have a reverse star, which is going to be hilarious to watch me write because I'm not great at at doing stars. So let's do something funny. Let's just there we go. Let's do it that way. So all right. So if you have a reverse star, this can represent a number of things. So this can represent descending, but it can also represent self-empowerment. It can represent self-empowerment in the sense that you are drawing upon energy that is very vibrant, very divine even, or even above, and you're bringing it into yourself. You're bringing it into that part of yourself that you wish to empower, whatever it is. Usually it would be that part of yourself that is self-interested in this case, but not always. So it might be self-interest, but it doesn't have to be. So that's drawing energy down. This is raising your energy up. So you drawing down energy to empower yourself is one method. Another way is to basically cast the energy that you already have and ascend it. Those are some tactics for using the star at any rate. So let's go back to certain runes, because I'm going to be using runes in my examples now. These examples, they're not the only ways you can use symbols. You can use other things besides the Elder Futhark runes, but we're going to stick with the runes just for ease in this lecture. So if you don't want something to be flowing, and of course, if you do want something to be flowing, you can always create circles. You can always create spheres. You can always make it feel like there is constant motion, constant generation of some kind of energy, some kind of force within yourself, displayed in the rune and reinforced within yourself based on the desire that you have for that sigil, for that sigil that you create. So let's say you just want it to be embossed and you don't want it to be, you're not really interested in it flowing. You want it to be ingrained in your mind. So here's some concepts. So there's a lot of sigils that you can create that have a basic format of one line, and then it naturally draws our eyes to the center. So if our eyes are drawn to the center, the sigil that we create can be upon that center. We can either use the lines or just use the basic concept of centering the sigil and creating things outside of the sigil, whatever that might be. So you can either use the lines or just suggest the lines, drawing the focus of your mind and the reality that you create through magic to that center point. So if I was going to do that's a rune for manas. If I was going to do that and not use the cross lines, not trying to use that to draw it to the center, the focus to the center, I could still put the dot, and I could still put whatever I want around it. But here's the thing about sigils. I found it very effective that even if you don't use the cross to draw attention to the center, putting a dot at the center of a sigil that you create really helps the overall focus, because when you focus on that dot, then everything else kind of conforms and molds into reality and attention in that one dot. It's like when you think of the reverse of a Big Bang, all moving centerward into that dot. And then once you project it, it creates into reality. So another thing you have to consider is that, do you want things to be symmetrical? So something like this is Berkana, the rune for growth in the Elder Futhark, not symmetrical. Now, if you do the rune if you add something to the rune like this, it just feels a little weird. If you work with the runes, it feels a little weird. You can do this, and you can even draw a little bit of a dot in the center, but it just feels a little off. So you have to decide if what you're looking for in a sigil, or even a runic sigil, if you want it to be symmetrical or if you don't want it to be symmetrical. Because I'm perfectly comfortable with a sigil like this. We got Algiz and Berkana. We got protection from Yggdrasil, connection to it, and growth. And kind of a fertile growth in our connection to nature. I'm okay with something like that, but if it doesn't feel right to you, then you can design it in your own way. And I'm just using the Elder Futhark as an example to explain some of these things. So, now, what works for me a lot of the time is when I have sigils that actually look a lot like letters. I'll give an example. So, a sigil that I've created recently looks like this. So, this is a sigil I created recently for attracting my true love. But it kind of goes against the runes of the rules of a sigil. It looks like the letters that I used in it. And I can classify different concepts directly from the letters. Compassion, friendship, romance. Usually when you're designing a sigil, and that's why you want to distort the runes sometimes, like if you wanted to distort it this way, depending on what sigil you're creating. Usually you want to distort the original like message, the original letters that you used, the original runes that you used, in order to make it more of a subconscious materialization of what you're trying to do. Usually if you want something to really sink into your subconscious, you want it to be non-recognizable to your consciousness, to your consciousness. This is very recognizable, but for some reason, a lot of runes that I make that are very recognizable as far as where they came from, and what words and letters that I use, they work for me. But usually, you shouldn't follow this rule. Now, let's say I was using the C, the F, and the R. So if I was going to manipulate that in a way that would make sense to my subconscious, but also be unrecognizable, and try to forget exactly what the words were, which is what is usually recommended for people who make sigils and know about sigils. Let's say I could distort it in a number of ways. So I'm just kind of playing with this here. If I distorted these lines in this way and created this sigil, this would be more to the traditional idea of what a sigil should look like. It doesn't look like the letters. It doesn't suggest what the words were. It just is. And it sinks into your subconscious because you were engaged in creating this sigil with the original ideas in mind. And even if you forget, which it is encouraged that you do forget the original words that you used, well, having a general idea of what it's for, even if you forget this, your subconscious will remember this because you were engaged with it. So let me cover one more thing. So a lot of people like to use religious symbols in their sigil craft. So if I was going to use one of mine that I very much identify with, it would be, Om, the symbol for Om. This can still be a sigil by itself. And this is a very important symbol for me. You can do similar things by creating a cross in various ways. If you're a Christian and you want to focus on that, hell, you could even distort it that way to make it more vibrant, to make it more energetic, and also more embossed into your subconscious. But, if you're doing that, you're not following the original sigil ideas of creating a sigil, but that's just as valid. And once again, these two things can be made into non-recognizable symbols that create the reality that you wish. You can add on to these symbols. So if I was going to add on to Om in a way that I wanted it to manifest something for me very specific, let's just go ahead and say, there we go. If I wanted it to do something specific, it's going to drive me crazy if I don't draw extra lines on here. All right. Then I could just add another leg to this, another segment. If I wanted it to help me get more friends, I could add Gebo. Once again, you don't have to use the affirmation process of using a statement and then dissecting it. But see, I'm adding Gebo, I'm adding partnership to Om. Or I could add Ansus, calling upon the gods. Maybe I want to use all three of those things. You can add on to religious or spiritual symbols that mean something to you. Let's think about a very shamanistic symbol, the spiral. If you wanted to add on to a spiral, if you wanted to give it potency, well, you could add a symbol right here. You can add a pattern. A pattern that is within the circle or a pattern that continues. then it can go all the way around and add on to that original sacred symbol that you love. It can be added onto, or it can distort the thing itself. If I was going to distort the spiral, I could make it into segments, and then insert, let's just say Lagos, insert, 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 insert. That can make it even more dynamic and also combine the original sacred symbol and what you wish it to do. So these are some of my ideas about how to work with sigils, how to make sigils that are important to you that can create the reality that you wish. And if you're not really well versed in making sigils or using symbols or anything like that, this is probably not the video for you. But if you are used to sigils, basic elements of sigils, then I think that these are some basic ideas that will sink in and help you along your path. I'll go ahead and describe the one practice that I kept on referring to. So this is going to be very brief because I know most of you who watch this have already either encountered this practice or have seen videos of me doing this practice. So let's say you want it to be an affirming statement. I am willful. So you have that. I am willful. So you want it to be affirming. So you don't want to say I want to be willful. You say I am this. So you want to get rid of vowels. A, E, I, O, U. Then what are we left with? M, W. You want to get rid of repeats, so I take one of those L's off. M, W, L, F, and then mark the. Okay, so we got we got M, W, L, F. These are the letters we work with, and they're all caps. You want to make everything caps. How do I make that into a sigil to where it enforces that I am willful without looking like these letters? Playing with them, but still using them. That's how you create a sigil for your subconscious to create the reality that you wish in your life. So M and W, very similar. I can just not worry about this M. So we go down to WLF. Let's kind of distort the F a little bit. Distort it like that. And then we distort the L like that. Kind of make it more of a curve than just a bend. And then we have the W. Let's segment that W. Let's hint at the lines, but not actually use the lines. So this is kind of already a W, but let's add a more symmetrical element up here. So let's see. So we can do a boom, boom, boom. Still kind of a W. So if you wanted to use this sigil for I am willful, you could. And you could always redraw it. Make it more crisp. You could use that sigil very well to both engage with what you originally wanted the sigil to be, but also kind of forget it at the same time. You could definitely use that sigil, and you could even put a circle around it if you wish. So that's the basic, those are some ideas about creating sigils, some basic ideas, basic concepts about creating sigils. And I hope this has helped you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to shoot them down in the comment section below on YouTube. If you want to contact me, you need extra help, you want to even become a part of our Facebook group, the Makeshift Tribe, the Make-Shift Tribe, which is a group of magic users, spiritual people, Satanist Christians, witches, Buddhists. We have a number of people in the Makeshift Tribe in the Facebook group. And if you wish to be a part of that tribe, feel free to message me at www.facebook.com/hunter.salazar, HUNTER dot, basically period, SALAZAR. You can friend me, message me, and ask to join the group, or if you just want to discuss, that's completely fine too. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has helped, and hope to see all of you on the channel in the future.